Hello there, my name is Linda and my channel is Elder Talk, and I'm going to be talking about June on the Range. I found out about it on the channel of Michael K. Vaughn, and his rules for June on the Range 2023 were to read one Zane Grey novel, one Louis L'Amour novel, and two Western novels of the reader's choice. And that is exactly what I did. I started with a Louis L'Amour novel. It was my first experience of reading Louis L'Amour, and I was pleasantly surprised. Very pleasantly surprised. And so the book is The Californios, and I chose it because I'm a Californiophile, meaning that I like to read about California. I like to learn about California. It's my home state. I was born in Oakland. I own a Goodreads group called California Reading. Like, I'm really into reading about California. So of all the Louis L'Amour novels out there, I had to choose The Californios to be my first. And I was so surprised. It wasn't just a shoot 'em up Western with male egos. No, it was something completely different. It was mystical. It was philosophical. It was just an amazing story. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars at Goodreads. And I would be very willing to read more Louis L'Amour novels after this. Now, I remember my grandmother buying those Louis L'Amour novels back when they were first published. She would buy them at the supermarket, and then she ended up with a huge stack of them on her desk in the hallway, and I wish I had kept them, but of course I did not. Such is life. Anyhow, the second novel that I finished was Shane by Jack Schaefer, and this was recommended by the Literary Texan. And I thank him. Thank you, Literary Texan, wherever you are, in case you happen to watch this. And Shane was the name of a man who rode into a small town, which I think might have been Colorado. I'm not quite sure. A small western town. The people that lived on the farm decided they wanted to hire Shane to work there. And so he stayed, and the boy that lived on the farm was Bob, and he was just enamored with this guy Shane, and he was actually wondering why Shane didn't carry his gun, because he had searched through Shane's things while Shane wasn't watching. You know how kids are. And he found the gun, and everybody else, I guess, wore guns, but Shane did not. And so I loved that book. It was great literature. It was short. It was much shorter than most novels. I would say almost a novella. But wow, what great impact that novel had on me. And I would very much recommend the book Shane to anyone, whether you like Westerns or not. You know, it was just good literature. And then the third novel that I finished during the month of June was The Light of Western Stars by Zane Grey. I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. It was a pretty good story. It was set in a town called El Cajon. I compared notes with somebody who lives down that way, and we decided that that probably wasn't the same place as El Cajon, California, because it did mention that, you know, from a certain viewpoint they could see mountains in New Mexico and Arizona, and I thought, I don't think that's possible from El Cajon, California. However, it was near the border. There were a lot of Mexicans, and the reason that I ended up not liking the novel very much is because he referred to the Mexicans as greasers all the time. And that's kind of a derogatory way to talk about Mexicans, I think. And then most of the Mexican characters were negative, like those bad men from south of the border. And there was, like, Bonita was a girl that was in the novel, and she was not really considered a bad person completely. But Yeah, I think that I could do without any more Zane Grey novels for the rest of my life. If I decide to do June on the Range again, I might read another Zane Grey novel if it's required. Otherwise, no. After I finished reading that, I did watch the movie on YouTube, and I noticed that the only time the word greaser was mentioned, it came out of the mouth of a Mexican character, so it wasn't quite so overdone as it was in the book. Now, the fourth novel I chose to read was another California novel, and I'm so glad I did. It is a novel of great cultural significance, and it is Zorro, The Mark of Zorro, the novel that started the entire Zorro phenomena, and great book. It is pulp fiction, it was melodrama, there was a little romance going on. I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. So to recap, I gave 5 stars to the Californios, to Shane, and to The Mark of Zorro, and 3 stars to The Light of Western Stars by Zane Grey. However, I could have gone down to 2 stars. It was sort of a borderline decision for me. I decided I had to have a female type novel, so I'm into Christian fiction, and I found a Christian fiction novel that is a Western. And so I'm reading that right now, and it is called A Heart of Gold by Robin Lee Hatcher. And it's about a young woman who has to travel to a small town in Idaho with her father. He is a preacher, and he is the first preacher ever to serve at their brand new church in a little town. What do they call that town? Coeur. Well, I've forgotten the name of the town. Grand Coeur. Checking my notes. Anyhow, so he is the first preacher ever in Grand Coeur, and it's a rustic little western town that does not please this young lady, the preacher's daughter, very much. And at the same time, there's a man moving into town. His name is Matthew, and he is a stage driver. And he is there because he has to set up household for his sister, who is very sick. His sister's husband has recently passed away, and now she is raising her child on her own, and she's very sick and she needs help. So he decided to get a home there in Grand Coeur, and of course, I'm only like 5 chapters into this, so I don't know much about what's going to happen, but you know, it's going to be a romance. You know it's going to happen. It has to happen. So that's it for me for June on the Range. Not just 4 novels, but 5, because I found this little Christian fiction that fits the Western genre at the same time. I thought it was a wonderful find. And so this is my first video that I've ever made in my shed. And I have made, like, all day long I tried to make this video. So this is take 4. I'm hoping that this will be the last one. My problem has been the lighting. The natural lighting, I tried that twice and it was really bad. So I decided to wait till after dark and use my artificial lighting. And so here we are at the end of the video, and probably more information than you really wanted, but I do recommend the Western genre, especially the Louis L'Amour novels. I think I'm going to read more of those, and I thought Shane was amazing, and Zorro was pretty good too.